What's on Stage Awards are tonight, or at least they will be when I post this video. So I'm going to see if I can predict the winner for every single category. The nominees have been out for a couple of months now. I have voted. My predictions are not necessarily going to be the same as what I voted for, because what I think will win is not necessarily the same as what I believe should win. So today we're focusing on my predictions and not my votes. I have 24 categories here. Now, one thing to bear in mind is the What's on Stage Awards are public voted, which is obviously something I'm going to take into account when I'm predicting who will win, because I'm thinking about what has the biggest fan base that are likely to vote, rather than just based on professional judges. If I was predicting the Olivier's, which I might do, we'll see, then I would be coming at it from a slightly different perspective, because I'd be looking at what I think the professional judges will class as the winner. But for now, I'm looking at what I think the public will class as the winner or vote as the winner. I will put the awards and the nominees on the screen so that you can see them and go along them with me. I haven't highlighted who I think will win. I want to go through that process and talk about it with you. I think that's a little bit more interesting than me just saying, I think this is going to win, I think that's going to win. Instead, it's me working through that thought process and you kind of seeing where I go with this. I have my iPad, which has all of the categories and nominees in for me to refer to, because there's no way I can memorize 24 awards and 6 nominees in every award. That's 140 something. I don't know, it's a lot and I can't memorize all that. Well, I could, but it doesn't seem like a sensible use of my time. The first award is the Sign Digital Best Performer in a Play. Our nominees are Jonathan Bailey in Richard II, Ncuti Gatwa in Born with Teeth, Tom Hiddleston in Much Ado About Nothing, Joe Locke in Clarkston, Maxine Peake in The Last Stand of Mary Whitehouse, and Rosamund Pike in Inter Alia. Unfortunately, I did not get to see any of these shows. I was absolutely gutted to miss Born with Teeth, and I really wanted to see Clarkston as well. And after everything I've heard about Inter Alia, I'm realising I really missed out there. But it's coming, it's about to open on the West End, or by the time I upload it, it might have already opened. So I do want to try and see it whilst it's at the Wyndham Theatre on the West End. So, who do I think is going to win this category? Based on everything that I've heard, I think Rosamund Pike in Inter Alia has a really high chance. However, given that the second Wicked movie only came out a couple of months ago and there's still a lot of hype around that, and given people who may not have otherwise known of Jonathan Bailey coming across him, falling in love with him as Fiyero, I think this will probably go to Jonathan Bailey from Richard II. Now, this is not to say that he'll only get it because of Wicked, absolutely not. I've heard some incredible things about Jonathan Bailey in Richard II. I can't remember what the overall consensus of the general show was like, but from what I've heard, I'm pretty sure people loved Jonathan Bailey in his performance. So because it's fan voted, I'm going to guess Jonathan Bailey. I know Tom Hiddleston will be a popular one as well. And that was Jamie Lloyd, wasn't it? Jamie Lloyd's productions always seem to be controversial, very much Marmite, love or hate. Evita being a good example. But for this one, we're going Jonathan Bailey in Richard II. The next award is the Best Performer in a Musical. Our nominees are Lauren Drew in Ticketmaster? No, that's who the award's sponsored by. Lauren Drew in Titanic, James Hamid and Artie Shah in Paddington the Musical, Lucy Jones in 13 Going on 30, Jamie Moscato from The Great Gatsby, Diego Andres Rodriguez from Evita, and Rachel Zegler from Evita. I have seen, so there's 5 shows, because 2 of the nominees are from the same show. 5 shows, I've seen 4 of them. The only one I haven't seen is 13 Going on 30, because I'm a London girl. I do want it to come to London, I really want to see it. This is a hard one. When I first saw this list, I had not seen Paddington, and I felt sure that Rachel Zegler would take it for Evita. But having seen Paddington, I don't think there's any competition. I think it's going to be James Hamid and Artie Shah. Rachel Zegler is incredible. Jamie Moscato as well was phenomenal in The Great Gatsby. But for all of the other performers in this category, unfortunately, I don't think there is any competition. I think it's James Hamid and Artie Shah. And if you've watched my Paddington review, you will know that I've said that these 2 should win awards for their portrayal of Passenger. I'm still on Harold Fry. For their portrayal of Paddington. So, next category. Best Supporting Performer in a Play. We have Joe Alwyn, I think is how you say it, from Lady from the Sea. Emma Corrin, The Seagull. Stephen Fry, The Importance of Being Earnest. Yerin Hat, The Maids, Sophie Melville, Clarkston, Mason Alexander Park, Much Ado About Nothing. Out of all of these, I've only seen The Importance of Being Earnest, and I do think Stephen Fry will get this. On to the next one. Best Supporting Performer in a Musical. Bella Brown in Evita, Amber Davis in The Great Gatsby, Candice Furbert, Charlene Hector, Brianna Ogunbowo, Melinda Paris and Robin Rose Lee from Hercules, Victoria Hamilton Barrett from Paddington the Musical, Grace Mowat from 13 Going on 30, and Leighton Williams from Titanic. Now, for me, my winner's very clear. I've seen 4 of these 6 musicals. I haven't seen 13 Going on 30, as I've mentioned, and I haven't seen Hercules. I actually saw Bella Brown play Eva Peron in Evita. She was just the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I never actually saw Rachel Zegler in Evita, but I did see her on the balcony, and I've seen the standing ovations, the clips, I mean, like 10-minute long standing ovations, if I'm remembering that correctly, and it would be Bella Brown. But for me, the winner is very, very clear. I think a lot of people will be thinking the same, and I think a lot of people will have voted for her, and that is Amber Davis. I think the public will have voted her as the winner, very deservingly. God, she's playing Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, which is absolutely exhausting role. She's a star. Next award, or next category, is Best Takeover Performance. So we have Karis Anderson in Moulin Rouge, Stevie Dock in The Devil Wears Prada, Emma Kingston in Wicked, Rob Madge in Cabaret, Eva Noblezada in Cabaret, and Alex Young in Operation Mincemeat. Out of all of these casts, I've only seen one of these casts, which is Wicked. I saw Emma Kingston in Wicked, phenomenal. Her No Good Deed was incredible. Me and my whole group, I think there was, 10 of us, had shivers at the way that she ended No Good Deed. However, this is not what I think. This is not based on my opinions. This is based on my predictions from everything seen and heard. This category, no one jumps out to me really clearly as, oh yes, it's absolutely going to be them. I think everyone here stands a really good chance. I know Eva has a really big fan base, but I don't know how much of that fan base is in the UK and how much is in the US. And of course, Stevie Dock developed a very loyal fan base on Mamma Mia's, the ITV Mamma Mia I Have a Dream show, but that was over a year ago. You know, hopefully people will be basing their votes on the performers in the musical. And of course, there's a lot of love for Rob Madge as well. I have heard a lot of fantastic things about Rob Madge as the MC in Cabaret. My best friend is obsessed with Cabaret. He's seen, do you know what, I'm not even going to guess how many times he's seen it. It must be more than 10 now. He's seen several different casts, and I'm pretty sure Rob Madge is his favourite MC. I hope I'm remembering that right, otherwise I'm going to seem like a really bad listener. Okay, I've decided. I predict Rob Madge will win this for Cabaret. Okay, Best Professional Debut Performance. This is a fun one. So we have Timi Akinyesade from Paddington the Musical, Mia Cara from The Hunger Games on Stage, Hannah Dodd from Cabaret, Jess Foley for Burlesque the Musical, Bareed Molika from Clarkston, and Asha Parker Wallace from Burlesque the Musical. To me, again, the outpouring of love, all of the hype surrounding her, things that people were saying when she first opened the show, I think the winner will be Jess Foley for Burlesque the Musical. Best New Play, we have Born with Teeth by Liz Duffy Adams, which you know I am gutted that I missed. I actually have the play text on my shelf, which I got for my birthday last week, so that at least I can read it even if I can't watch it. Not quite the same as watching, but it's the next best thing. Clarkston, Samuel D. Hunter, The Comedy About Spies, Henry Lewis and Henry Shields, Inter Alia by Susie Miller, Stereophonic by David Ajmi, and Through It All Together by Chris O'Connor. I don't think there's any competition here. It's got to be The Comedy About Spies, isn't it? It was a fantastic show, but it's also Mischief. Mischief have such a loyal fan base. They really know what they're doing. And unfortunately for the others, I'm not sure any other play stands a chance where a Mischief play is on the lineup, especially one as good as The Comedy About Spies. So that's my prediction. The Best New Musical Award. The Great Gatsby by Kate Kerrigan, Jason Howland and Nathan Tyson. Hercules by Alan Menken, David Zippel, Robert Horn and Kwame Kwe Armour. Here and Now by Sean Kitchener. Paddington the Musical by Tom Fletcher and Jessica Swale. Shucked by Brandy Clark, Shane McAnally and Robert Horn. Robert Horn's done Shucked and Hercules. And Titanic by Ty Bloom, Marla Mindell and Constantine Rizzoli. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced any names. Again, a month ago, I'd have said it's obvious. I am 99% sure the winner would be The Great Gatsby, but I've seen Paddington and I don't think I can call it out of Paddington and The Great Gatsby. I know which one I loved more, but I did love both of them. I'm going to go with The Great Gatsby because there was a very tight, loyal fan base surrounding The Great Gatsby, and I don't think I've seen quite the same fiercely loyal fan base around Paddington, but it's still relatively new. so there is time for it to develop. The Best Play Revival Award, we have The Importance of Being Earnest at the National Theatre and Noel Coward Theatre, The Lady from the Sea at the Bridge Theatre, Much Ado About Nothing, Theatre Royal Drury Lane, Richard II at the Bridge Theatre, The Seagull at the Barbican Theatre, and A Streetcar Named Desire at Sheffield Crucible. I've only seen The Importance of Being Earnest. I saw it at the Noel Coward Theatre, not the National Theatre, so I saw the run with Stephen Fry and Ollie Alexander, not with Ncuti Gatwa. Was Richard II Jamie Lloyd? I'm trying to remember. Much Ado About Nothing was Jamie Lloyd, and as I said before, his productions are very much Marmite. People either love it or they really don't. This is a risky prediction. The show was also a while ago, and when people are voting, it's probably not going to have been at the top of their minds. I also saw a lot of controversy around it, but I did see a lot of love, and clips I've seen from the curtain call, it looked very interesting. So I am going to go out on a limb here and say Much Ado About Nothing as my prediction. We'll see. Best Musical Revival. Brigadoon at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, which I'm gutted that I missed that. Evita at the London Palladium. Jesus Christ Superstar at the Watermill Theatre. Little Shop of Horrors at the Sheffield Crucible. My Fair Lady at the Curve in Leicester, and The Producers at the Menhir Chocolate Factory and the Garrick Theatre. I don't really think there's much question here. I think it's going to be Evita, and that's all I have to say. Best Regional Production. 13 Going on 30 at the Opera House in Manchester. Come Fall in Love at the Opera House in Manchester again. Jesus Christ Superstar at the Watermill Theatre. Crap's Last Tape at York Theatre Royal. Pride and Prejudice on tour, and Through It All Together at the Leeds Playhouse. Again, based on all of the hype surrounding it, the way it just completely blew up social media and went absolutely viral, the outpouring of love for it from people who hadn't even seen it, it's got to be 13 Going on 30. Best Studio Production. Be More Chill at the Old Joint Stock Theatre, Brixton Calling at the Southwark Playhouse, Cul-de-sac at the Omnibus Theatre, The Frogs at Southwark Playhouse, The Last 5 Years at the Barn Theatre and Reading Rep Theatre, and Young Frankenstein at the Hope Mill Theatre. I'm going to be honest, I don't recall hearing much about Brixton Calling, Cul-de-sac. I vaguely remember hearing bits about Young Frankenstein, but I think that was more to do with the announcements than any fan hype surrounding it. Be More Chill, I do remember some hype around that. And The Frogs, I remember hearing people talk about it, but I don't know if it was hype so much that they were giving it. And of course, The Last 5 Years is quite popular at the moment, but in terms of this specific production of it, I don't recall hearing anything incredible. But I know they do have a clear fan base. It is pretty popular online at the moment. So I think I'll go The Last 5 Years. Best West End Show, I like this one. We have Cabaret, Hadestown, Les Mis, Oliver, Operation Mincemeat, and Wicked. Now, this is probably the toughest one to call. I don't think it's going to be Les Mis, simply because Les Mis has been around for so long. It's had its chance several times. However, having said that, Wicked has been around for 20 years this year. Operation Mincemeat and Cabaret, Hadestown have all been around for several years at this point. Oliver's the only one that could kind of be classed as new, but even Oliver's like coming up to 2 years now. They all have really tight fan bases as well. I think Cabaret's fan base is still quite niche. Even though it's a West End musical and is clearly very successful, I still get the impression that their fan base is quite specific, quite niche, maybe not as big as some of the others. Hadestown does have a huge fan base and a lot of love, but I don't think it's going to win this category. Les Mis, I definitely think it has the ability to win this category, but I have a feeling it's not going to, as I say, because it's been around for so long, and I think people might like to see something else take it, and for that same reason, I don't think Wicked's going to get it. So it's down to Oliver and Operation Mincemeat. Operation Mincemeat, again, seems to have a very niche following, a very niche fan base, and in the early days, it very much was this kind of, almost like this little known musical, even though it was on the West End, but it's definitely not little known anymore. It's very well known, it's transferred to Broadway. This is tough. And if you're wondering, my vote for this went to Oliver, but somehow, sadly, I don't think it's going to be Oliver, which leaves me with Operation Mincemeat. So I guess my prediction for Best West End Show is Operation Mincemeat, but I have a very high chance statistically of being proven wrong, given that there are 5 other options. So we shall see. Best Concert Event. The Book Thief in concert at the Prince of Wales Theatre, Gravity at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, The Hunchback of Notre Dame in concert at the Prince Edward Theatre, Jeremy Jordan live at the Royal Albert Hall, Rachel Zegler live at the London Palladium, and and Songs for a New World at the Eventim Apollo Hammersmith. Not to get in on the tea here, I know that the Hunchback of Notre Dame concert was very well loved, and from what I've seen, the cast were incredible. I didn't see it myself. However, I don't want to see the Hunchback of Notre Dame concert win this award because I think it sends the wrong message. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, if you don't know the story, the main character, I cannot for the life of me remember his name, has a spinal condition causing him to have that kind of hunched back look, hence the name The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And there was a lot of unhappiness from disabled actors that they had cast a non-disabled actor. Even Equity said that they really felt a disabled actor who was disabled in some shape or form, maybe not necessarily the exact spinal condition, but some form of disability that impacts the back or the spine. Equity agreed that someone like that really should have been cast. And there are lots of disabled performers in the industry, and for that reason, as much as I'm sure the cast were incredible and deserve an award, I don't want to see it win because I think it sends the wrong message. But if they do another Hunchback of Notre Dame concert next year and they do hire a disabled actor to play the disabled character, I am all here for it and will be supporting it 100%. Who do I think is going to win though? Well, I think it's out of Jeremy Jordan and Rachel Zegler, isn't it? I know Songs for a New World was incredibly popular and incredibly hyped about. I think it's going to be Rachel Zegler. She had her whole Evita summer and then that finished, and then she did this concert at the London Palladium with many of whom in the audience who had probably not been a fan of her until they saw Evita and were now worshipping her. Yeah, it's got to be Rachel Zegler, hasn't it? Best Direction: Tamara Harvey, The Constant Wife, Lynette Linton in Intimate Apparel, Jamie Lloyd in Much Ado About Nothing, Thomas Ostermeyer in The Seagull, Tim Sheeder in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, which disappointingly I have not managed to see, and Luke Sheppard in Paddington the Musical. We have a mixture of plays and musicals here, and it's difficult because I've only seen one. For reasons mentioned earlier, I think Jamie Lloyd for Much Ado About Nothing has as much chance of winning as he does of losing because it's very more my style. Personally, I really enjoyed Evita, but that is, I think, the only Jamie Lloyd production that I've seen. I really enjoyed Paddington, really enjoyed the directing, but I don't recall anything standout or incredible about the directing. It was great, it worked. But is it award worthy? I'm not so sure. And the other four, I can't really comment on their directing. I haven't heard enough about their directing to really kind of gauge whether they might be award worthy. I think, bearing in mind that this is fan voted or public voted, then I'm going to predict Luke Sheppard for Paddington. Best choreography: Fabienne Alois in Evita, Ellen Kane in Ballet Shoes, Ellen Kane in Paddington the Musical, Lauren Lataro in The Producers, Drew McConey in Brigadoon, and Jennifer Webber in 13 Going on 30, the musical. Again, no question here. It's got to be Jennifer Webber in 13 Going on 30. People that haven't seen the show, myself included, know the choreography. We know the dances. We know all about the choreography of that show. Whereas for the others, I think if you haven't seen them, other than maybe Evita, if you haven't seen them, then you don't really know much about the choreography. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Jennifer Webber's choreography went absolutely viral on TikTok. 13 Going on 30 had an incredible social media team. I think it was is it Ivan Fergan, who was one of the actors, I think took charge of their social media presence and clearly did an incredible job. So yeah, Jennifer Webber, 13 Going on 30 is my prediction for best choreography. Best Set Design Award. Okay, Frankie Bradshaw in For Ballet Shoes, Lizzie Clacken from The Lady from the Sea, Tom Pye, Paddington the Musical, Paul Tate, Depew III from The Great Gatsby, Michael Taylor, My Fair Lady, and David Zinn, Stereophonic. Well, two of these shows, in my reviews of them, I said they will win awards for their set. So which one do I think is more likely to win an award for its set? And which one do I think is more likely to be voted for by the public for its set? Do they line up? I think if this was being judged by professionals, then it would go to Paddington. But it's voted for by the public. So do I think it's going to go to Paddington, or do I think it's going to go to The Great Gatsby, which is a very close second? We're going to stick with Paddington. I'm going to stick to my gut with that one. Best Lighting Design Award: Neil Austin in Born with Teeth, Neil Austin, Paddington the Musical, John Clark, Evita, Paul Constable, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, Howard Hudson, Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, and Jessica Hung Han Yin, Hamlet, Hail to the Thief. I've seen 3 of these shows, and I don't know if it's because the set and the costume and everything else was so minimalistic, but the Evita lighting design really seemed like something. Award worthy? I don't know, but definitely something that stood out. So Evita. Best Sound Design: Adam Fisher, Evita, Tony Gale, Wild Rose, Tom Gibbons, The Seagull, Gareth Owen, Paddington the Musical, Ryan Rummery, Stereophonic, and Gareth Tucker and Nick Lidster for Autograph for Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. Well, again, I don't know if it's because everything else was so stripped back, but I'm really leaning towards Evita here. I'm finding it a hard one to call. So again, I'm just going to go with my gut, leave it there, Evita, and moving on to the next award, which is Best Video Design. Real Duke for Hamlet Hail to the Thief, Andrej Golding for Born with Teeth, Luke Halls for Sing Street, Zach Hain for The Maids, Jamie Lloyd, Nick Ward and David Anderson for Evita, and Ash J Woodward for Paddington. No question about it, Evita. When I went to see it, I expected the balcony scene to look like I was watching a cinema screen, right? Like I was watching Rachel Zegler on the balcony through a screen that was clearly being filmed by a camera in a similar way that you would at the cinema. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like I was watching Evita on a balcony on stage. It felt like the balcony was part of the set design, was on the stage, and that I saw Bella Brown as Evita, and that Bella Brown herself was on the stage, not outside the theatre being filmed. So that's definitely Evita for me, hands down. No question about it. Best Costume Design. Alex Berry for Intimate Apparel, Linda Cho for The Great Gatsby, Colin Richmond for The Red Shoes, Gabriella Slade for the Costume Design, and Tara Zafar for the Paddington Bear design for Paddington the Musical. Ray Smith, The Importance of Being Earnest, and Michael Taylor for My Fair Lady. Again, a month ago, I'd have said Great Gatsby, hands down The Great Gatsby. But whilst the other costumes in Paddington, I wouldn't say are anything amazing, and on the whole, for all of the characters, definitely The Great Gatsby takes the lead there. The bear suit for Paddington Bear himself is one of the most extraordinary things I have ever seen. If you don't know, the neck down, it's pretty much a costume that Artie Shah, the actress, wears like a costume, but the head, she wears it, but it's animatronics. So it's heavy, but it's got to be light enough for her to perform. B, it's controlled remotely by James Hamid, who is the offstage Paddington performer. C, there was a lot of people convinced it would be quite creepy, and I understand why. And then it came out and it was the most adorable, cutest thing ever, and everybody wants their own version of the Paddington that we see on stage. It's got to be Paddington. Purely for the bear suit, it's got to be Paddington. Best Wigs, Hair and Makeup Design. Georgia Lowe for The Little Shop of Horrors, Campbell Young Associates for Paddington the Musical, Charles G. Lapointe, Rachel Gere and Ashley Ryan for The Great Gatsby, Mia M. Niels and Kirk Cambridge Delpeche for Hercules, Grace Smart for Cyrano de Bergerac, Ray Smith with Kate Elizabeth, Campbell Young Associates and Adele Brandman for The Importance of Being Earnest. I think it's got to be The Importance of Being Earnest. Everything about the way the actors looked was really funny. The costumes, the wigs, the makeup, the way they moved, everything about the way they were visually was incredibly funny, and the wigs, hair and makeup designers play a big part in that. The Importance of Being Earnest. Next up, we have Best Casting Direction. Pippa Alien for Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, Stuart Burt for Make It Happen, Alistair Kumar for The Importance of Being Earnest, Natalie Galasher, Nick Hockaday and Annabelle Davis for Paddington the Musical, Bryony Jarvis Taylor for Here We Are, and Pearson Casting for Titanic. If you've seen my Paddington review, you probably know exactly what I'm going to say, but I am going to say it's Paddington. The reason specifically for this is that Annabelle Davis was brought on board to cast the onstage Paddington performer. Now, if you don't know, Annabelle Davis is an actress herself. She has dwarfism. She's also the daughter of Warwick Davis, which you probably have heard of, whether or not you've heard of Annabelle Davis. And she was brought on board to cast the onstage performer of Paddington because they wanted to cast an actor with dwarfism to play Paddington. So they brought someone on board who could really understand that in a way that other casting directors maybe couldn't. And Annabelle Davis casted an incredible onstage Paddington performer. She also casted, I think it's 2 understudies or 2 alternates, or maybe 3, for Paddington, all who have dwarfism, all of whom I've heard are incredible, so it's Paddington. Best Music Supervision / Direction. Tom Brady for Hamlet Hail to the Thief, Matt Brind for Paddington the Musical, Justin Craig Stereophonic, Stuart Morley for Jesus Christ Superstar, Sarah Travis, Davey Anderson and Ali Rucroft for Wild Rose, and Alan Williams for Evita. I can't shake it. I think it's going to be Evita. Something in me is telling me Evita. Can't fully explain why, but there we have it. Now, that is the very last award. 24 awards, 140 something. I'll put the number on the screen. nominees, 6 for each category, and a video predicting the winners of each category. This will be uploaded before the What's on Stage Awards happen tonight, but if you're watching this when I upload it, you're only going to have a few hours to wait to see if I get it right or wrong. I really hope I don't get too many wrong because that will be embarrassing. But maybe I'll come back in a week or two and look at what I got right, look at what I got wrong, look at how close I got. Maybe I'll do that. Or maybe that'll put me to shame and we'll just forget this video ever existed. I've never actually been to the What's on Stage Awards. I would quite like to, but I've just never got around to it. If you are going to the What's on Stage Awards, or if you went, depending on when you're watching this, do let me know in the comments. And if you want to go but you've never been, again, let me know in the comments. And one little request from me, please like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed it. It really helps me out. I'm still a relatively new creator here on YouTube, trying to build up my platform. If you enjoyed it, please also share it with anybody else that you think might enjoy it. But for now, that is the video concluded, and I will see you for a video next week.